Cardinal Wuerl, you began your seminary studies in 1958, the year that Pope John XXIII was elected. What do you remember most about him?
I think the impression that I will always carry with me was his smile and the joviality. Now remember, this is following on Pius XII. And all the pictures that I had of him as a youngster, all the pictures I had of Pius XII were he was very prayerful and very serene personality. And then along comes this wonderful, smiling, laughing Pope. But in the long haul, the great and enduring memory, of course, is the Council.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about. What is his most important legacy for our church and for our world?
In all of the life of the church, there have not been that many church councils, and for a good reason. A church council brings together bishops from all over the world to address serious and important issues in very critical moments in the life of the church. It was Pope John XXIII who assessed that this was the time for a council. As he said, a council for the aggiornamento, for the updating of the church. And he said in the decree calling it, he said, the task of the council will be to present faithfully and in its entirety the teaching of the church, the received teaching of the church. But then he called upon us to do this in a way that would attract people to the beauty of the teaching.
And it's interesting too that he had been a diplomat in so many different countries, and he was used to dialogue and working with different people. And so when he decided that moment was right for a council, he called together all the bishops of the world to confer with them and to dialogue with them and to chart this new course.
He had this extraordinary background, you're right. His whole life was in the diplomatic service of the church up till almost the very end. In fact, he ended up being the nuncio in Paris, a very significant post, at a time when there was a lot of confusion after the war, after the Second World War. Then he went to Venice, his pastoral assignment, and I think there he began to put into practice the idea of working with people, collaborating with people, listening to people, so that it seemed almost a natural thing for him when he came to Rome and was elected Pope to say, don't we need to listen to the church throughout the world to see how best we can carry on the work of the church?
And it's striking that 50 years after his death, he's still remembered as good Pope John. And so many commentators say that our current Pope, Francis, resembles him in his personal qualities, in his pastoral priorities, and also in the world's reaction to him. Do you see that similarity between?
I think there's a very real similarity. Remember now, it was a completely different time in the early 60s, late 50s and early 60s, when John XXIII became Pope. But what people remember, and that's why they call him Good Pope John, what they remember is his pastoral outreach. And now along comes Pope Francis, and we see the same thing. We see a pastor of souls. That was his work in Argentina, Archbishop of Buenos Aires. We see a man who looks first to the gospel to see what is it Jesus is asking us to do, and then to all of those around him that he wants to invite to walk with him as we all try to live that gospel. I think people are seeing in Pope Francis one of the things that I notice when I'm in Rome. So often the Romans, because the Pope is their bishop, they often refer to previous popes by their family name. Pacelli, Montini, Wojtyła. But when they speak of John the 23rd, it's always good Pope John. And when they speak of Francis, it's just Francesco. I think it speaks to the way they have taken these two popes into their heart.